Welcome to chapter 34. All right, this one, I don't have a lot of graphs or any graphs to draw for this first video, so I just put the outline on the board behind me here and if you've read the material, you know this stuff already, so this is just a review of what you know. If you have any questions, please use the comment section or the reply section uh, in the announcement area to ask me the questions you may have that you want me to explain further. I'll either write an email directly to you, or if it's an important question, I'll include it in my next video. So trying to move through this quickly. Um, the money supply in the United States. There's going to be a later lecture for Thursday. Well, maybe even early next, might be next Tuesday's lecture, I'm not sure, where we talk about why we use the kind of money we use nowadays, mostly paper money, checking accounts, and the like. As you know from your world history class, probably, different societies, different civilizations used a wide variety of things to use as money. We'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes too. But let's start off by talking about the three functions of money. Function number one, the medium of exchange, when we actually buy something and you hand somebody a $10 bill and they make change for you, and you've bought something that cost you $6.83 or something like that. So the actual exchange of money. Unit of account. You know that that thing cost about $6. You compared it to other things that maybe cost $7 or $8, and you thought that this was the best deal. It was the least expensive one, and the quality was good. So you used money as a unit of account, as a comparison of one thing to another. How much money do you have in your savings account? Whatever that answer is, that's you're using money as a unit of account, because you're not actually spending it at the time. So when we go window shopping, or we talk about the amount of money that we have in various places, that's using money as a unit of account. And then finally, a store of value. When we put the money in the bank, especially when we put it into a savings account or some kind of an investment account, so it's going to pay us interest, we're actually delaying our use of the money. Delayed gratification, for those of you that may have taken a psychology class. We're delaying use of that money until a later date. So we put it away in today's world in the bank. You've heard me many times in class talk about people that bury their money in the backyard, hide it into a mattress, under the mattress, wherever they may save their money for future events. So that's using money as a store of value. All right, our book does not talk about this, but especially in the summertime, when I use another textbook, it talks about the characteristics of money. I think it's a good idea to know. It's not in your book, so you might want to take notes and see it on the board here. Maybe pause the video so you can jot these things down. Money needs to be durable, needs to be something that lasts for a considerable amount of time. Coins certainly last a long time. And our paper money is pretty durable, actually, in terms of understanding that it gets passed around from person to person. It's pretty sturdy stuff. Portability, that's why we use paper money. It's a lot more portable than coins are. If I had to walk around with $100 worth of coins, and even if I had dollar coins, it would still be 100 coins. A $100 bill is much more portable. Divisibility, our money, I can take that $100 bill and exchange it for a 50 and 5 tens, or break it down any way I want. It's very divisible all the way down to the penny. Uniformity, a dollar bill is worth the same everywhere in the country, whether you're in Alaska or Florida. Now, that does not mean that your dollar will go as far in Alaska as it will in Florida. Prices are very high in Alaska, but nonetheless, a dollar bill is a dollar bill everywhere in the United States. Uniformity of the money. Somebody can't look at it and say, your dollar bill has an A in that little circle on the face of it. My dollar bill has an L there. Mine's worth more than yours is. A dollar bill, no matter what Federal Reserve issued it, is worth the same as every other dollar bill. Limited in supply. That's why we don't just print more money to use fiscal policy. We try to limit the supply of it so it maintains its value. And acceptability, we'll talk more about that. We're going to talk a little bit about, well, let's talk about it right now. The term for acceptability is legal tender. And your book talked about legal tender somewhere in this chapter. I think on page 686 somewhere, talks about what legal tender is. So legal tender means that the money is valid for all debts, public and private. I just found it. It's on page 688. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. So that means that the federal government says this is money. And legally, if you have a debt in the United States, the person you owe the money to has got to accept payment in dollars. Now they can tell you, no, I don't want cash. It's late at night. It's midnight or 1 a.m. in the morning at 7-Eleven, and we don't take $20 bills at this time. So they don't necessarily have to take your cash, but they have to take it in dollar terms. So you can put your debit card down or your credit card, and dollar terms will work. All debts in the United States legally can be paid in dollars. And of course, the federal government accepts dollars for payment of taxes. That's what makes it legal debt tender for public debt. That's your taxes. All right. So that's acceptability issue. Components of the money supply. So to wrap this video up, M1 is the primary money supply. It's the money supply that we're going to be referring to most of the time over the next week or two or three that we're talking about MS, money supply. So the money supply is always abbreviated as capital MS. And that money supply, M1, is composed of currency and checkable deposits. Currency, you read in the book, all the coins, all the paper money. Remember from your U.S. history class that those can only be coined or printed by the federal government, not by state governments. Although historically state governments were allowed to print money, they were never allowed to coin money, ever, going all the way back to the beginning of the government under the Constitution of the United States, 1788-89. But state governments and individual banks could print their own currency for a long time. That was finally ended by the Currency Act in 1864. And since that time, only the federal government can print currency. No more printing of banks printing their own notes or state governments printing their own. Now, checkable deposits is the term that our book uses. All my professors and a lot of other books that I've used call them demand deposits. They're the same thing. Checkable deposits are demand deposits. That means money in a checking account that you can write a check for or use your debit card and draw it out of your checking account. It does not include savings accounts, whether they're individual savings accounts, small-time savings accounts, or whether they're money market funds or anything like that, or CDs that banks may offer to people who have a lot of money that they're saving for future uses. That stuff goes into M2. Those are called near monies. So your savings deposits, we call them time deposits. That would be your savings account at a bank or a credit union or a savings and loan. Your money market accounts that your parents may have money in, so that it grows a little more interest. That's a little better interest rate than keeping their money in a savings account at the bank. And your book talks about several other things, MMDAs and MMMFs. You don't need to worry about those things. I'm not going to have them on any of my tests. They're not going to be on the AP exam. You just need to know that M1 is actual money that can be used right now, and M2 is money that we can turn into money. It's near money. We can turn it into money very, very quickly. If I'm at the store and the clerk says, oh, your debit card was declined, I might say, oh, I forgot to transfer money from my savings account into my checking account. I can literally pull my phone out and transfer that money right now, right in front of the clerk, and say, okay, swipe my card again, see if it works now. And it'll work because the savings account is near money, very quickly can be turned into a checkable deposit. So that begins chapter 34. The next video is going to be on what backs the money supply, money as the debt of the federal government. I'll explain that in the next video. The value of money, how do we, what's the formula for the purchasing power of the dollar? And then that'll wrap up Tuesday's class. So next video coming up.